Okay.
Is it recording now?
Yeah, it should be. Okay. So this is my TEDx speech for Bellevue University's speech class. I want to pan the audience. So this is my lovely audience that is available. And then of course the cameraman. Okay.
You just skipped.
Okay. So, good afternoon. I'm Nicholas Mahoney. So, I want everybody to sit there, pretend you're a terrorist, okay? Okay, very big concept. So, me as a terrorist, I would like to cause a huge ruckus, right? Scare tons of people. What methods could I use? What could I use? Where could I put it? Well, a good example is the 88,000 tons of nuclear waste that is sitting right off the Pacific Ocean, 75 miles away from San Diego and Los Angeles. This station is called the St. Offray Power Station. Nuclear waste is growing in numbers and has no plans for long-term storage. Nowhere in the world has anybody ever thought of long-term storage, but it is a huge necessity that is required. You know, nuclear power has lots of benefits. You know, it's lowered our carbon footprint on the world by using a very efficient method of making energy, right? But in turn, you're creating nuclear waste that stays radioactive for, in some instances, hundreds of thousands of years for a nuclear generation time of 6 to 8 years. According to the Nuclear Power in the World Today, which is an online website that anybody can visit right now, nuclear energy now provides about 11% of the world's electricity from about 450 power generators. This is just on land. Now, according to the same source, we also have 140 naval vessels powered by more than 180 small nuclear reactors, most of which are submarines. It wasn't until recently that nations across the globe finally banned disposing of waste in the water. Mind blown. According, the Chernobyl power plant has an exclusion zone of 1,000 square miles. That's a very large amount of land. Now that was just one incident, one mishap, one person didn't do their job right. Now we have multiple instances of that happening. We actually have 7 major mishaps so far from our time of using nuclear energy until now. One example is the Fukushima power plant in Japan that was triggered by the tsunami incident that happened, which created another large exclusion zone. It's also damaged Japan's economy significantly, taking down their GDP by 11%. Now, that's a very big deal, especially for an island country that's very dependent on it. The exclusion zone that will stay in effect for Chernobyl for 20,000 years. So nobody's going to be able to use that land for 20,000 years. Now, to begin, I'm going to discuss about the growth of nuclear energy and how do we use it, what's the benefits, what's the negative side effects, so on and so forth. So, nuclear waste is growing with no short-term plan disposal, like I have previously said. The United States is currently building a modern nuclear power plant right now as we speak. It is being built in Georgia. The nuclear power plant is called Plant Vogtle. Now, on the Department of Energy's website, you can learn all about Plant Vogtle. They have this huge initiative. The United States is getting back into the nuclear power game. It's very motivating. But when you look at their initiatives, a lot of them is making nuclear a priority because it lowers our carbon footprint. But then another initiative that they have on their website is the disposal of the nuclear waste. If you also look at that section, that initiative has been under development and is still waiting for further information. This plant is being funded by $12 billion of loan money. And this money, between that and the investments into the new power generation, generators, but they're doing all this with no long-term plan of the disposal of the waste. The U.S. Navy is planning to build 2 new Ford aircraft carriers, and they've already built the brand new Ford-class carrier right now. The award amount for that contract was $15 billion. These ships are projected to have a 50-year lifespan, but hopefully don't get decon like a current carrier I can think of right now, earlier in its lifespan. These ships are being built with no long-term plan for disposal of the reactors after they get decon. We have ships sitting in shipyards right now that they're just sitting there on the water. The iron around them's rusting, decaying. Nobody knows what to do with it. So, next I'm going to talk about the hazards of nuclear waste. Nuclear waste can cause death and serious health concerns from the radiation. Immediate radiation can cause death, which is most significant, but mild exposures to different exposures cause different effects, but it can create long-term effects on individuals. People who are exposed to radiation can contract early cancer. So if you're exposed to radiation, you're essentially lowering your lifespan. And when you are exposed to that, that's something you have to think about when you're in an environment like that. Nuclear waste can stay radioactive for thousands of years. The nuclear power generation procedure creates lots of byproducts. Some stay radioactive for 20 to 30 years, but the most notable is plutonium-239, which will stay radioactive for more than 20,000 years. Uranium is only useful for energy production for 6 to 8 years. So when we're using this, we're using it for the purpose that's intended. We don't recycle it because that creates bigger issues. If you look up Germany's issues that they're having with that because they tried doing that, it's just efficiency-wise, it's very efficient for creating power, but it's not efficient in the long run for recyclability and waste management. Now, what are some things we could do about this? Now, the purpose of this speech is I'm informing you of the issue that is at hand. I'm trying to let you understand that there's no plan in place. So, Finland is creating a long-term storage facility. They intend to dig real deep into the ground, put this waste down in there, and then close it back up. Finland, the specific location they chose, has minimal hazards in environmentals, no tsunamis, no tornadoes, no hurricanes. You limit that. It's very secluded, so human activity is not going to be an issue. The only issue that they have is because the amount of time that nuclear waste stays radioactive, we can't, as a human species, cannot guarantee that we'll be there at that time. So how do we translate the message of staying away from that to a drastically different species? Should we put a sign up that says, hey, don't go here? Or leave it out there and hopefully nobody finds it? Now that's some discussion that's being had. But what I will tell you is that the world needs to reevaluate the approach to nuclear power. Finland has a nice foot in the door, but they shouldn't be the only ones actually doing this. Everybody should be taking part in this problem. Nuclear waste can cause serious environmental disasters and cause permanent harm or death to humans who get exposed. I'm sure everybody here cares about human life. The solution is simple. To put waste in a location where it cannot be disturbed for the length of the radioactivity. In practice, it's proven to be not so simple. Nuclear waste is a growing issue that's continuously getting fed by facilities that we have and that we plan to create. If we don't address this issue before it's too late, we could see unintended harm from the mishaps of our short-term storages that we have currently. Thank you for your time. Take this. And then here's my audience.